I have come here to chew bubblegum
and talk movies.
and I'm all out of bubblegum.
I'm the king of the world! Wow! Get back!
Hey everybody, welcome to Movie Mayhem. This is where, well, basically it's going to be a lot of mayhem, but I want to welcome my co-host first, Chase, well, let me rephrase, the legendary Chase Morgan Hulett. Chase, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. I am so excited for Mayhem. It's going to be fun. Movies are obviously a big passion for you and I, and we have worked together in the past, and I am just so excited to just sit back and talk about movies, talk about what we're excited for, and go from there. So I'm all ready.
And there's going to be a lot of references, whether it's going to be a little bit of past, but mostly present films here for the pop culture era, which we live in probably one of the best eras. I know you'll disagree because you like the golden age, but that's okay. Chase, what is on your mind to start this Mayhem Monday?
Oh gosh. Well, you can't escape anything without hearing about this writer strike, and I have not dived too deep into the reasoning behind it. It must be about pay. That's the only thing I can think of, but I just noticed that a lot of productions have been pushed back or even pushed back indefinitely. And I have a couple examples that I thought I can bring up because I'm actually really excited about these. So if you've seen Stranger Things, you know that the 5th season is going to be the final season. Everyone's real excited about it. I am excited because you got to learn these characters from the first 3 seasons, and then the 4th season just kind of punched you in the gut at the end, which I'm sure there's been spoilers about it now, but it seems like the Upside Down is now coming to Earth and everything's kind of colliding. So that 5th season is going to be amazing. But from what I've read, it has been pushed back to 2025. So we're going to have to wait definitely over a year, maybe almost 2 years until we find out what happens to 11 and the group. And that sucks because I was so excited to see it come out. But according to the creators, it is impossible to go through production and finish the script while the strike is happening. So that's one of the shows that was affected by it. But a lot of shows are affected by this writer strike. And I know we talked about earlier about what's coming up at Comic-Con. Now, what's your opinion on that, if I may ask?
Well, as far as economically speaking, I think the writer's strike, and this is one of the things I don't hear too often, but why would you strike when the economy is already down? I think, and you see, and again, we're going to get into the budgeting and how much money that Disney has lost because we got articles to pull up here as well. But when Hollywood's already losing money, to me, it just doesn't make any sense why you would risk your job. Because I'm going to be quite honest with you, I don't think half these writers, I mean, they might settle on an agreement, but I think some of these studios that know these writers that struck, I don't think they're coming back into the fold, most of them. Because it's already a kind of downhill slope in this industry right now, as far as like money in places. So on that aspect alone, I think it was a very stupid decision to strike now. I'm hearing something like the Actors Guild might possibly do the same. I don't know what that's going to lead, but to not really say about films that are pushed back or like TV shows that are pushed back. Ryan Reynolds can't even go off script at Deadpool because apparently it's creating something new, and that's a form of writing, which is absolutely like bizarre to me why that's even unionized and in the contract, but it is what it is. So welcome to the Hollywood standard here, Chase. That's where we are in society. But no, I mean, Stranger Things, of course, a big blow to specifically Netflix, who their stock's hurting as well at this time. So I would say the Stranger Things is probably the biggest thing that they have going for them right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty popular show. I remember when it first came out, and I thought, I don't know about it. But then I watched it, and I just got hooked immediately. And that's just because it focused on an era that it brought back the 80s, brought back to life. And I love, and you get characters that you love, and they just did really well with designing it. And it's kind of a horror, kind of not at the same time. So people who aren't a fan of horror can still enjoy it, but people who like horror can also still enjoy it. So that's I was real excited for season 5, and it's still going to come. It just is going to wait for over a year. So, but you know what? It happens. It seems like a lot of shows. 1923, the spinoff of Yellowstone, they were gonna have a season 2, and that got pushed back to January of next year because it was supposed to film in my home state of Montana this month, and then it got pushed back. But then I read something that it was not going to happen at all now. And so I know there's a handful of shows that are just being canceled altogether because of this. So I'm hoping that it gets resolved. I'm hoping it doesn't escalate, but you and I both know how people work sometimes and how organizations work, and it seems like that it might just escalate. But we still have movies that are coming out this year. That we're excited for. I am excited for a handful, but I think 2023 is still going to be one of the good Hollywood years. Do you agree?
I agree. I think, and we're going to get into the conversation about maybe an upcoming film that we're both looking forward to, and one that we're not, but one that Chase is also going to get dragged into. And I thankfully have nobody that is going to drag me into this theater to go see what film we're about to announce. But question for you, Chase. What gets out first? Okay, because you said Stranger Things goes to 2025 now, gets pushed back. Avatar 3 just got pushed back. Which one's coming out first? Which is straight. Well, first of all, that's a trick question because Avatar is going to be in December. So Stranger Things has the whole year in 2025 to release.
I think Stranger Things will come out sometime in the summer, is my opinion. So I do think that I do that. But I do also know, this will make you laugh, that Bluey is having new episodes on Disney Plus July 12th. So folks, and Donnie, if you're excited for Bluey like I am, that's coming out. And that's tricky. And that's something that I find interesting on a serious note, is because that comes out of the land down under. So it's different. They have is a different time zone. It's a whole different day, I think, sometimes. And, they have all the seasons, but we only get like portions of it. So it's kind of interesting of how that distributing of shows works and how it comes to America and all that. So that's an interesting point. But I figured you would want to know about the new episodes. So I think about you.
I think Disney's hurting for so much content that they're just doing this to spite me. Is Kat? Does she have an earpiece or something? Because is she telling you to say this? Blink twice or being held hostage.
No, I actually found this out, so this is all on me.
Oh, that's all on you. Good job. I'm so proud of you. Now, we can talk about a film that I think both of us are excited for, and I'm sure the audience is excited for it. But it's going head to head with the Barbie movie, which yes, Chase is getting thrown into the mix to go watch Barbie. Because part of that deal with his now fiance, congratulations. Round of applause, everybody.
Yay.
But Chase, Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is Christopher Nolan's, boy, I don't even have the amount of films he's done. He's just done, but everything that he's worked on has been absolutely amazing and visually stunning. So do we expect anything less from this?
No, I think what I like about it is he just kind of does what he wants. It's the same with Dunkirk. He did the Batman movies, and then he did Interstellar. I think Interstellar came before Dunkirk. And then he's like, I want to do a history film. Wrote a history film, which I read the script, and the script is very simple. The Dunkirk script is just the easiest thing to read. Like my niece could read it. And she's one. But I think Oppenheimer, I think what is so exciting about it is how he filmed it. So I read an article about it, and he said that if you sit in the right spot, which listeners, viewers, if you go to the movies, there is a specific spot that you should sit at, because when they dub it in the stage and they do the sound mixing, they do it at a certain distance. So if you sit at that exact spot from the screen, you will get the best sound. And I read that if you sit at the right spot for Oppenheimer, you will feel the explosion through the sound, which is insane for my part. Because if you go to film school, 50% of the film is sound, which is so true. I always thought, it's not a big deal, but it really changes your film. You can have an amazing film and have bad sound, and it's a bad film. Or you can have a really bad looking film, but if it sounds great, it's a good film. It's so important. So if you're going to go see Oppenheimer in theaters, which you should go and pre-order those seats. and watch it. I wouldn't sit too close to the screen or too far away. You need to sit at the right spot. So I'm definitely pre-ordering it. I'm so excited for it. And I'm curious on what they're going to do, because the trailer shows like those, I call it like B-roll shots of like flames or something happening, what, like the sparks come by the screen. I'm wondering what they're going to do about. I wonder if, I don't know. I try not to think about it too much because I want to be surprised when I get to the theater and see what they do. But I'm excited, and I'm sure you're excited as well.
I am very excited. And Chase, do you know what row that possibly is, to sit like that distance in between, that perfect spot?
It's not the middle row. It's, I think, above it.
For everybody that doesn't know, it's row G.
It's the G spot for filmmakers.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I had to get that in. No, but I am looking forward to Oppenheimer. One of the things, too, is he went as close as he could to making an atomic bomb without actually making an atomic bomb for this film. Very interesting. I sent you and I will post it up on the screen for the audience to see, but I sent you that, I sent you it through Instagram, that reel of what it's going to be like sitting in the theater for that.
From Final Destination,
yeah,
the explosion. That I was watching it make me laugh. I also thought of like the SpongeBob episode where they're making a movie and Sandy says, "Did somebody say kaboom?" and just blows up the set. And I'm like, that is totally how it was on set. I'm convinced.
Would you say I'm accurate if I said that Nolan is the Spielberg of war films for our generation?
He definitely has his own style. Like, I think you have achieved your goal as a filmmaker if you can watch a movie blindly, mute it, and know it's them. Like, I think that's a particular skill. Like, you can do that with Tarantino. All you have to see is red apple cigarettes and feet, and you've got a Tarantino film and a trunk shot. And you have the same with Spielberg. Spielberg does a lot of historical. But what I like about Spielberg is he does everything. And Nolan does everything, but he is new enough where he hasn't done everything, in my opinion. That doesn't mean he's bad. He just, he's starting up. I mean, if you were to talk to Spielberg in the 90s, he hasn't done everything yet. But once he got into the late 90s and he made Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan, and then he moved on, then you're like, okay, he's pretty much done all of it, and he's done really good at it. And so I think Nolan is doing pretty good. I do think that, because I know there's some films like Tenet that sometimes it's not about the dialogue. Sometimes the sound is really ramped up to the point where you're like, I don't even know what they said, which is why I have subtitles. I'm 28 years old and I have subtitles on TV, because sometimes you just don't understand what people are saying and you don't get the whole message, especially in a Nolan film. And I have noticed that in his films where it's like, okay, the dialogue doesn't matter, which for me as a writer, and I like a good story and I like an arc and all that, I'm like, but some directors have a different, like Tarantino really likes writing. He really likes the writing, and maybe Nolan really likes the sound effects. Nolan's sound effects are amazing in his films and his score. So it's the different viewpoint on how you view the story and all that. So I have nothing against Nolan. There are films I like better than others, but I think he's made it to that level of a director, and that's awesome.
I mean, also, too, the reason why I say that is because out of the historical pieces, and yes, you could go back through the History Channel, and they've made some interesting, quite historical documents, or history documentaries on the History Channel. But as far as like Spielberg and Nolan, they both have a craft to bringing that era to life, no matter what generation they're in. Like specifically with their war films. And it's just something that you can sit down and you could tell it's kind of a Nolan film. Just like you could tell things are Spielberg films. Just like you can tell things are J.J. Abrams films, which are just lens flares, by the way. If anybody's wondering, it's just lens flares. And maybe a rip-off of other sci-fi films. Or you can tell, just like you've mentioned before, you're a big Michael Bay fan, so you know when it's a Michael Bay film.
I have to be in the mood for Michael Bay. Michael Bay is intense.
The epic rap battles of history when he comes down, by the way, is just beautiful. Did you watch it?
Oh, and it's his movie though, because explosions, advertisements, Linkin Park, like you can tell when it's a Michael Bay film.
Early 2000s, baby. Early 2000s. Things only 90s kids know. No, some great times, great times. So we're going to move on to the next topic. Chase, let me ask you first here for the audience. Do you think they'd rather hear a historic number of losses on Disney products, or Disney productions, excuse me. Let me rephrase that. Do you think the audience would rather hear a epic loss in the box office by Disney, or would you rather go to the Comic-Con situation? Because I find Comic-Con this year very dull, it sounds like.
I'm curious on the Comic-Con situation because I was looking at it and it seems that it's a mix of like really big companies not being there, but then big enough companies that will be there. And I guess I can pull the article up, but I think Warner Brothers wasn't going to be there. But then they talked about the DC being there.
So I had the full list if we just want to dive into it here. By the way, this is from Polygon. You will see it on screen. So tune along with us. Especially if you're watching the video and not listening to the audio version of this podcast, just so you know. If you are listening to the audio, sorry, you do not get to see the article. So out this year is Disney products, Marvel and Lucasfilm. That's interesting to me. Now, it's not so interesting because Disney, of course, we're going to talk about Disney with their losses and accumulative fails at the box office here for a fourth consecutive film. But it doesn't sound like Pixar's out either. So I'm expecting maybe Pixar to still be in the mix because it says specifically Marvel and Lucasfilm. But it's amazing because out of all this stuff coming out, like you have Blade coming out, you have Ahsoka coming out, you have an X-Men reboot possibly coming out, you have the Marvels film, which they're trying to push hard for the end of the year. They are not showing any of that at Comic-Con, nor having any panels.
That is interesting because Marvel is a really big deal because you have so many characters and so many likable characters, especially in the Avengers days, Infinity War and that. So that's really interesting. But what I am excited for is Max. Well, as people know, HBO Max is no longer HBO Max, it's Max, which I found out the hard way when I tried to watch it. And it said, hey, you have to download a whole new app. And I thought, what? But HBO Max kind of went away from the channel app and turned into like a streaming service more, which I like. But they're going to be there. Yeah, just Max. They don't have too much coming up, but I just like Max as a service. Like it's probably the one I watch the most out of the, handful that I have. So they're in.
And out, by the way, is Sony Pictures, which doesn't really shock me because they just had their big hit at the box office with the new Spider-Man film. I personally haven't seen it yet. Hopefully it's good. I'm hearing good reviews out of it. Chase, did you get a chance to go watch the new Spider-Man film?
I haven't yet, but I've dipped my toe in anime a little bit more. Not just that type of anime, but just any animation style. I've kind of dipped my toe in it. So I really want to see it, but that's unfortunate that they're out. But they're doing pretty good right now. So Netflix is out. And Netflix actually has something coming out that I am actually excited about, and that is a live adaptation of One Piece, which Donnie, I know you just love anime so much and you watch it all the time, but One Piece is an ongoing series since 1999 and it has thousands of episodes. Maybe not thousands, but it has over 1,000. And if you want to binge watch One Piece, you could watch like 2 or 3 episodes a day and would not finish it in a year. That's how much it is. But they're having a live action one, and I'm actually excited for it. Is it going to be good? I don't know. My guess is probably not, but you have Luffy, you have all the characters, and they're fun, so I'm curious. But yeah, Netflix is out, so that kind of sucks.
Let the record state, Chase was being sarcastic about the anime, for people that don't know. Anyways, I plead the fifth. In is Warner Brothers Pictures, by the way. James Gunn led DC Universe movies, which, again, poor DC hit rock bottom again with the Flash. We could talk about that. $200+ million loss, which who could have saw it coming? Even about 5,000 Batmans and about 2,000 Supermans could not save this film from 2 Ezra Millers. It was not good.
Right? God, if they only did PS5 CGI, it might have been good, but they stuck with PS2. So,
I mean, we're at this point in time where, I mean, we could have put a spoiler warning up. Chase, I don't know if you saw the film. I don't know if you planned on seeing The Flash at all. I personally do not plan on seeing The Flash. So stating that 2 Ezra Millers was probably a spoiler alert. But think about all the issues that Ezra Miller has gone through in the past. The fact that you put 2 of them on screen just horrifies the audience.
and I'll probably watch it. I really like Snyder Cut of Justice League. I did enjoy that. I thought they did really well with that. I know it was 4 hours, but I mean, Snyder got to do what he wanted. And, as a filmmaker myself, and you as well, that's cool. You finally get to revisit something you've been wanting to do and you finish it, and good for you. But the Warner Brothers, I'm glad they're going to be there because I think James Gunn is actually going to do pretty good with DC. I mean, he did really good with the Suicide Squad. He had the Peacemaker, which was a pretty funny show. And then you have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which was, I feel like that was his goodbye to Marvel because he went right to DC. And you know what? That was a good film. I don't know. Did you see Guardians?
Yeah, Chase, I do have to say, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, even though I'm not a big Guardians fan, to see it in theaters and to have that emotion come over you, because, again, it was kind of teased at the beginning in the trailer that not everybody was going to make it out alive in this cast. And, did it hit the rock? Did it hit the emotions? Did it pull on the heartstrings? Absolutely. Plus, Little Rocket Raccoon. How could you not? But in all honesty, he's done a fantastic job with, I would say, if I had to say about a James Gunn film, I would say 9 out of every 10 films that he does is truly a spectacle. I think he really does put together some really good products. But then when he hits hard and bombs, he hits hard and bombs. There's no doubt about that. But like I said, I'll take 9 out of every 9 out of 10. Beautiful. He did just cast his new Superman and Lois Lane, which I do not have the names pulled up, so I'm going to skim over that because I don't remember who they are.
I don't know either, but another thing that Warner Brothers is coming out with this year, and I'm excited, is Dune Part 2.
Bro, that trailer.
Yeah, that trailer is... Dune is... The first one was so good, and it's the director, and is Dennis something. I don't remember his last name, but he's like the king of sci-fi right now. He is so good, because he did Blade Runner 2049, he did Arrival, and he did, Dune Part 1. Excuse me. He did Dune Part 1. And they were all just so great. What I love about his films is they're slow burn and they savor the action. Because sometimes you can do like a Fast X and get so much action that it's almost like a roller coaster in the theater. But his films, he savors action. And I kind of like that in movies because it's a really special moment when you see some type of action happen. But yeah, Dune Part 2 is coming out, and the Batman Part 2. Now, I don't know when the Batman Part 2 is coming out. I don't have any dates on that or anything. So, but the Batman, the first one, was amazing. I absolutely loved it. So I'm excited to see what they do with that.
I'm all game for another 3-hour Batman movie. I love it. Plus, you know what? We always talk about this, and not to dive too deep into a conversation of DC versus Marvel, but one of the things that I always loved about DC is greater when it's darker, because it does have those darker, grayish characters. And that's something that they had to get back to. And the reason why I didn't like the Snyderverse, they weren't dark enough. Like, they were too actually comic book films in the sense of like, hey, let's do some action and some blow-ups and just non-really, what do I want to say? The villains weren't really villains. I mean, you could say like Doomsday was technically, and I don't think Lex Luthor, the guy who played him, actually did a bad job as Lex Luthor, but it just, there was no weight, there was no Thanos weight to it as that grayish character. But at the same time, like Batman, he's a hero, but he could also be anti-hero at times. Like, there's also times where he can butt heads, even though he's not killing anybody. It's just he's somebody that creeps in the shadows, and you gotta love those shots, because one of the things about the Batman film, the way they use shadows and played in, like that was comic books. That was like, ow! And of course the opening scene too. Of course, before you get to the subway station with like the painted Joker faces and stuff. it showed like the bat symbol go up, and every criminal that night would just like look around him, and you didn't know where Batman was going to be, and it turns out he wasn't anywhere. But the fear of Batman was enough to keep the criminals off the street, and that's something that a lot of the DC properties going forward with Batman hadn't done. Now Nolan was definitely a different style Batman. There were still darker and edgier moments, but even Nolan didn't use the shadows to its full effect.
Oh yeah, well, it's good to see that Edward from Twilight turned from his vampire ways and became a bat and became vengeance. So in-ish in this article, which I don't know what in-ish means, but Amazon, which they have an interesting between Fallout, Blade Runner 2099, which I guess they're still doing Blade Runners. Is Harrison Ford in that one too? Who knows? That's an animated series. I might be wrong, but
is that animated?
I love Blade Runner, so I will watch it. I watch anything Blade Runner.
But I guarantee you they are going to lead this off with their biggest, most expensive IP. Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power Season 2. Because let's all be honest, folks, it was such a big hit. Do we have to show the articles? Do we have to? All right, they'll pop up on screen here. So we have that to look forward to, everybody. If you didn't think the Halo series was bad enough. But I'm going to go down here to one more thing, which is a definite in, and how can you have a Comic-Con without it? Funko is in. The Funko Pops.
Yeah. Well, you know, the funny thing is, like, the Funkos that I enjoy are really hard to find now. Like, all the newer ones, it's just, I don't know. It's really hard to find. Like, I like the Jaws ones or the Jurassic Park ones, and they're really hard to find. But since it's the 30th anniversary of Jurassic Park, they have been throwing out some cool Jurassic Park ones in Target. So people, if you like it, go check that out. But no, Funko, it's a very collectible thing. And, you know, I went to Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City, and they had so many Funko Pop stations. So many. So, but also, you know, Magic the Gathering just came out with the Lord of the Rings set. And if you're a big Lord of the Rings fan like myself, that's really cool. So all the cards, the artwork is amazing and all that. So that's also going to be something that's going to be out there as well.
For people, and I have became a kind of an avid. I became kind of an avid Funko Pop collector as of recently. No, it wouldn't be because Chase drugged me into Super Target and I had to go find an Avatar Funko, which I do appreciate that. How could you not, by the way? You know, that is fascinating. Okay, for anybody, I know this is off topic. Doesn't matter. Super Targets from Pennsylvania, rare, if not there's any at all. I go out to Missouri and they're just there. Also, drive-through Subways. I did not sit there for 5 minutes at the drive-through Subway, wondering why nobody was talking to me. Mike can contest to that or not. That is a different story whatsoever. All the mayhem. We're throwing it all in the conversation. We're going to switch a little bit of topics because this, again, is on the course of mayhem. From Bloomsburg, 2023 is a transitional year with Q3 streaming losses expected to rise above $800 million. That is for Disney. Paid subscriptions to Disney Plus fell to 157.8 million, which is a big number still, everybody, so just remember that. But analysts had expected it at 163.1 million. Yeah, I mean, the subscribers, the problem is the subscriber count always looks good because when you have 157.8 million subscribers worldwide, you're just like, oh, you're set in gold. But they're projected to lose between the film district of Disney, 800 million. And that has been this whole quarter. That is amazing.
That's nuts.
Like, how are you still a company at that point? I mean, it just goes to show you how many billions upon dollars that they have.
Well, they own so many companies, you know, like Star Wars. Like, if you look at all the things that are on Disney Plus, like they own that. Like, they're doing just fine. That's the thing about Disney. Like, it will always be there, I swear. It's just that thing that you have people who are like, no, I don't like this. I don't like what they're doing, but then they're still going to watch it. Well, for one, like Bluey's on there. So you're still going to have parents show kids something. Even they might say, don't watch this show that's on Disney, but they're still going to watch it. It's like the new Indiana Jones film. I don't think it's going to be that great, but I'm still going to go watch it.
Well, that's fine, but based off estimates, it has to make $800 million to break even. Like, so, because apparently they reshot the film because the budget's up over $300 million, which, let me just emphasize this. For Marvel films, some Marvel films have encroached $300 million. I don't think there's a Marvel product that has broken $300 million, unless the Marvels coming out somehow does it because they seem to reshoot that daily. But that is just astonishing that an Indiana Jones film costs that much. When are we going to go back to the days of, maybe this will play along with the writer's strike, maybe they'll just be canning people left and right, but when are we going to get back to the days of having like $80 million budgets?
Like, it's wondering to think who's actually paying for this, behind the seat. Someone's running the strings and everything. So to lose that much is astonishing to us, but it seems like a huge company that gets revenue every day, like that might not be much. Like, I remember reading an article once, and it's a little off topic, but Lego makes $1 million a day. So if they lose $1 million, they just have to work one more day. You know what I mean? So, but I do think that it is biting them in the butt. I think that is something that is hurting them, and maybe they're just not admitting it. But I'm not going to get too political, but they did it to themselves.
Oh, they absolutely did. But let's put this in context for everybody. So you had Indiana Jones hit about $300 million, like as far as like the budget, if not increase over 300 to like $350 million budget. How much do you think Christopher Nolan's new film that we were just talking about, Oppenheimer, cost?
Probably less than that, I would say.
Give me a number. I have it.
150 million.
Good guess. It was 100.
Wow, that was close.
He made it for, think about that though. He made it for 100 million. Now, granted, they probably threw another 50 million in advertising because what do they teach us in film school? Like 25% of the overall budget is supposed to be like marketing. You're supposed to take 25% of the budget, market it.
Yeah, you have a percentage for marketing. You have a percentage for, well, they used to do DVD sales, but that kind of goes out, which that actually hurts the film and all, because they used to say, hey, we didn't make this much in the box office, so now let's make it in the DVD sales. But now they don't do that, so it's like, well, they've got to really do it in the box office.
But I wonder though how much cut they get from like streaming early, like, because Avatar, don't get me wrong, Avatar was not streaming early or able to buy anywhere till like February, March, because that thing was just a monster all the way through the worldwide box office for $2.2 billion. But I remember the midnight it came out, I was like, okay, and I bought it for $20 on Amazon, on Amazon Prime. I wonder if they get better rates through that kind of purchase than like the DVDs. Because it's not physical media, so you're not really putting anything behind like the production of it. You're just sending a file out there.
It probably helps them. It probably does more than we realize, because you can rent any movie that's in theaters on Prime, but it costs you like $20. But how convenient is it to watch it at home? You can watch the new Indiana Jones film, let's just say. You could probably watch it at home here next month sometime. But I like that experience in theaters, and I think you agree. So, but there are people who, if they don't have to leave the house, great. There are some people that they like that new technology, like the new way that things are going. Not everyone's old-fashioned like old me.
Old 28 him.
Old 28 me.
Well, Chase, we have had a good Monday on Movie Mayhem.
It's been great. It's been a lot of mayhem. I didn't say kaboom, but I'm sure in the future kaboom will happen randomly.
Fire effects go.
Nope.
Anyways, Chase, where can people find you at? And I know that you have a film coming up here that you're really looking forward to that might not have a cool producer or not, but if you want to give that pitch here.
I am at Chase Morgan Hulett on Instagram. We also have a podcast Donnie and I do called The Golden Review. It's on Spotify. You can follow us on Instagram at The Golden Review, all lowercase. And I did have an amazing producer, Mr. Donnie. And I'm going to keep it a secret right now until later. So stay in tune for Donnie and I's upcoming film.
And we will catch you all. Thank you for joining us on the Shield of Hope channel. We look forward to experiencing every Monday morning with you guys as well. And we're going to cover some topics in pop culture, like we talked about before. And maybe we'll even give a few questionnaires to the polls on our Instagram. I think that'd be pretty cool to see what people want to talk about on certain subjects. But like I said, it gives us a chance to recap through the weekend and get some breaking news throughout the week. So maybe one day, Chase, maybe we can bring this segment to about 2-3 days a week. We'll find out. But, you know, and eventually live stream, that'd be pretty cool.
Be fun. Yeah. We can watch an episode of Bluey.
And on that note, thank you everybody for joining. This has been Movie Mayhem. We'll talk to you next Monday.